All right, so let's dive into something pretty wild.
Oh,
Elon Musk,
yeah.
the guy behind Tesla, SpaceX,
Mhm.
and even that whole Twitter takeover.
Right.
But lately, he's gone full supernova in the world of U.S. politics.
It's certainly a fascinating shift. We've got this Politico report and a bunch of news articles all buzzing about how Musk is becoming this major political force.
Right.
Some even call him the unofficial president, which is, well, a pretty eyebrow-raising claim.
It is.
Yeah.
So for this deep dive, we're going to unhack exactly how a tech CEO ended up in the middle of the political arena
Okay.
and what it means for, well, everyone.
Right.
Get ready for some seriously interesting stuff.
Right.
We're talking Musk's 150-suite campaign against the government spending bill, calls with House Speaker Mike Johnson, endorsements from Republican senators.
Oh, wow.
Buckle up.
Let's start with that spending bill.
Okay.
It was pretty much expected to sail through before the holidays, but then Elon Musk enters the chat going on a full-blown Twitter offensive. He urged Republicans to completely reject it, using language like demolish the temple and eliminate the bureaucracy.
And he did all this before even Trump had commented on the bill.
Right.
I mean, talk about setting the agenda. What's fascinating is that Musk essentially forced everyone else's hand.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the spending bill wasn't just routine. It was a battleground with Musk leading the charge.
Exactly. That's a key insight here.
Hmm.
Musk's aggressive stance and the sheer volume of his tweets created this political pressure cooker.
Yeah.
He effectively hijacked the conversation, putting the spotlight on his opposition to the spending bill.
And it wasn't just talk.
Right.
The Politico report mentions how all this online activity put immense pressure on House Speaker Mike Johnson, who ended up taking calls with Musk's associates.
Wow.
Imagine trying to navigate that, getting bombarded by your own party because Elon Musk is stirring things up.
It really highlights how Musk's operating outside the traditional political playbook. He's leveraging his massive online platform and direct communication style to bypass the usual channels and exert influence in a way that's completely unprecedented for a non-politician.
So we see Musk shaking things up with the spending bill, but then the narrative takes this even wilder turn.
Okay.
People start speculating that he might actually try to become Speaker of the House himself.
Wow.
There were even endorsements from prominent Republican senators fueling this idea.
That's where things get really intriguing. Remember, Musk was born in South Africa, so he can't be president in the United States.
Right.
But there's no such constitutional requirement for the Speaker of the House.
Wait, so he could technically be Speaker?
Newsweek actually did a deep dive on this, exploring the constitutional implications. And their conclusion, it's not impossible.
Wow. Okay, so suddenly all this talk about President Musk doesn't seem so far-fetched.
Yeah.
I mean, even Bernie Sanders made a comment about it, which, knowing Sanders, is probably the most mainstream attention Musk's ever gotten.
It definitely became a national conversation.
Yeah.
Everyone was weighing in, senators, late-night talk show hosts, you name it.
Right.
It really shows how quickly Musk's political influence has skyrocketed.
And then, of course, Trump had to chime in. He publicly acknowledged that Musk couldn't be president, but made sure to praise his intelligence, almost like he was acknowledging Musk as a player on the political field.
It's pretty telling that even someone like Trump felt the need to address the situation. It speaks volumes about how seriously people are taking Musk's potential role in politics.
But here's the kicker. The most surprising endorsement came from Benjamin Netanyahu. During a meeting with Musk, he actually called him the unofficial president of the United States.
That statement perfectly captures the narrative that's emerging around Musk.
Right.
He's wielding significant influence even without holding any official political office. It's a truly unprecedented situation.
So we've got Elon Musk, the tech billionaire, who's gone from tweeting about electric cars to potentially shaking up the entire U.S. political landscape. And this is all happening at warp speed. What do you think is driving this meteoric rise to political influence?
It's a combination of factors, really. His immense wealth obviously plays a role, giving him a platform and resources that most people could only dream of. But it goes beyond just money.
Yeah, there's definitely something about his personality and communication style that resonates with people. He's got that tell it like it is attitude that some find refreshing, especially compared to the carefully crafted messaging we often see from career politicians.
That's a good point. He's very direct, almost blunt on social media. And it's not just what he says, it's how he says it. He uses humor memes, even engages with his critics directly. It creates the sense of authenticity that many people find appealing.
But the Politico article also raises some serious concerns about this whole unofficial president thing. Specifically, they point to Musk's move fast and break things philosophy, which, while it's worked for him in Silicon Valley, might not translate so well to something as complex as American politics.
That's the big question, isn't it? Can that Silicon Valley mindset work in Washington government? Is all about compromise negotiation, working within established systems. It's not exactly known for its speed or agility.
Right, like you can't just launch a new version of democracy, see what happens if it crashes. The stakes are a lot higher here.
Exactly. And the article highlights how Musk's dismissive attitude towards the deep state, this idea of entrenched bureaucracy resistant to change, could create some serious friction. It suggests he might not fully grasp the complexities and nuances of governing.
Wait, can you unpack that a little more?
Oh.
What exactly does the deep state mean in this context, and why is Musk's take on it a potential problem?
So the deep state, as it's often used, refers to this notion that there's a hidden network within the government bureaucracy working to undermine elected officials and maintain their own power. It's a concept that's often used by those who feel like the government isn't working for them or who distrust career civil servants.
Okay, so Musk basically doesn't buy into that idea.
Yeah.
He sees it as an obstacle to getting things done right.
Right. He's very much a believer in individual action and taking control. And to him, the deep state represents the opposite of that. It's about systems and processes that slow things down and prevent rapid change.
But isn't that kind of the point of those systems? To prevent things from changing too quickly, to ensure stability and prevent abuse of power?
Precisely. And that's where the concern arises. Musk's move fast and break things approach could clash with the very foundation of American democracy, which relies on checks and balances, deliberation, and respect for established institutions.
It's almost like he's bringing a bulldozer to a chess match.
That's a great analogy. He's used to operating in an environment where he can make swift decisions and pivot quickly, but government doesn't work that way. There are layers of oversight, legal frameworks, and competing interests that have to be considered.
And it's not like his companies have always had perfect track records, right? I mean, SpaceX had those rocket explosions early on, and there have been some issues with Tesla vehicles needing recalls.
Absolutely. He's definitely had setbacks and failures along the way, but his approach has always been to learn from those mistakes and keep pushing forward. The question is whether that same approach can work in a realm where the consequences of failure are potentially far more significant.
Okay, so we've got the experts worried about how Musk's methods might clash with the way government actually works. But then there's this other twist. It's not just politicians he's influencing, it's the voters themselves.
You're hitting on another key point here. The Politico report revealed that Republican senators were being bombarded with calls and messages from their constituents, all urging them to listen to Musk and follow his lead on political matters.
Wait, seriously? So people are basically saying, forget what you think. Just do what Elon Musk says. That's kind of wild.
It is. And it speaks to the power of his influence and the way he's bypassed the traditional channels of political engagement. He's cultivated this direct connection with a segment of the population that sees him as a straight shooter, someone who understands their concerns and isn't afraid to speak his mind.
But that also seems like a potential recipe for disaster, right? I mean, blindly following someone just because they're rich and famous, isn't that how we end up with, well, problems?
It's a valid concern for sure. It highlights the need for critical thinking and informed decision-making, even when it comes to someone as seemingly charismatic and innovative as Elon Musk.
So to recap, we've got Musk disrupting the political scene with his unconventional methods, potentially clashing with established systems and inspiring a wave of grassroots support. It's a lot to unpack.
It is, and it raises some profound questions about the evolving nature of power and influence in the digital age.
Like, what happens when someone with Musk's wealth and reach decides to play the political game by his own rules? Is this a positive force for change, or are we headed into uncharted and potentially dangerous territory?
Those are exactly the questions we need to be asking. Musk's emergence has thrown a wrench into the gears of traditional politics, and the outcome is far from certain. What's clear is that the game has changed and the stakes have never been higher.
Okay, so we've seen how Musk has become this political force to be reckoned with. But let's dig a little deeper into the potential consequences of all this.
Yeah.
What are some of the specific risks and concerns associated with his approach to politics?
Well, one of the biggest concerns, as we've touched on, is the potential for Musk's disruptive style to clash with the way American democracy is designed to work.
Yeah, for sure.
Our system is built on this idea of checks and balances, deliberate decision-making, and compromise. It's not meant to be fast or efficient, and that's by design. It's meant to prevent any one person or entity from having too much power.
Right, and Musk seems to operate on a completely different timeline, right?
Right.
He's used to making quick decisions, pivoting on a dime and pushing forward relentlessly.
Right, and that's where the friction comes in. The Politico article argues that his move fast and break things approach could have unintended consequences when applied to something as complex as government. It's like trying to fix a delicate watch with a sledgehammer.
So what are some specific examples of where this clash might play out?
Well, think about the legislative process.
Okay.
It's slow, it's messy, and it involves a lot of negotiation and compromise between different parties and interests. Musk has already shown a willingness to circumvent traditional channels, like when he bypassed Congress and went directly to the public with his spending bill campaign.
And that worked for him in that instance, but could that strategy backfire in the long run?
It's certainly possible. If he continues to disregard established norms and procedures, it could lead to gridlock, resentment, and ultimately an erosion of trust in the system itself.
And what about his views on the deep state? That seems like another potential flashpoint.
Definitely. His dismissal of the deep state, this idea of entrenched bureaucracy, raises concerns about how he would interact with career civil servants who play a vital role in implementing and enforcing policies.
It's almost like he sees them as the enemy, as obstacles to progress.
That's the worry. And if he were to take on a more formal role in government, it could create a very adversarial dynamic, which wouldn't be good for anyone.
Okay, so we've got the potential for clashes with the system itself and with the people who run it.
Yeah.
But what about the public? We talked about how he's inspiring this grassroots support, but is that necessarily a good thing?
That's a tricky question. On the one hand, it's encouraging to see people engaged in politics, passionate about issues, and willing to make their voices heard.
Yeah. But there's also a danger in people blindly following a charismatic leader without critically evaluating their ideas. Right?
Exactly. And that's the flip side of Musk's direct connection with the public. It bypasses traditional media and filters, which can be good in terms of transparency and accountability, but it also creates opportunities for misinformation and manipulation.
So it's this double-edged sword. He's shaking things up, which can be exciting and refreshing, but it also comes with a whole set of risks and potential consequences.
Right. And it's not just about Musk himself. It's about what his rise represents. It's about the growing influence of wealth and technology in politics, the blurring of lines between entertainment and policy, and the potential for these trends to erode democratic norms and institutions.
So where do we go from here? What are some things to watch for as this whole Elon Musk in politics saga continues to unfold?
I think it's important to pay attention to how he interacts with established power structures.
Yeah.
Will he try to work within the system, or will he continue to challenge and circumvent it?
And how will those in power respond to his unconventional methods? Will they try to co-opt him, or will they push back?
Those are key questions. And of course, we need to keep an eye on public sentiment. Will his popularity continue to grow, or will people start to question his motives and methods?
It's a lot to keep track of. But I think the takeaway here is that Elon Musk's foray into politics is more than just a celebrity sideshow. It's a reflection of some deeper shifts happening in our society, and it has the potential to reshape the political landscape in profound ways.
Absolutely. And whether those changes are ultimately positive or negative remains to be seen.
So for all of you listening, here's the big question to ponder. What does Elon Musk's rise mean for the future American politics? Is he a force for good, a disruptor who will shake things up for the better, or are his methods a cause for concern?
It's a question that will continue to be debated and analyzed for years to come. One thing's for sure, the game has changed, and Elon Musk is a player to watch.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into Elon Musk's political rise. As always, thanks for listening, and keep those brains engaged. The world is changing fast, and we'll be here to help you make sense of it all.